In October 2016, a caretaker went to forcefully evict a tenant who had not paid rent for over a year, but what they would discover inside that house would be a sight so disturbing that the whole community would begin trooping into the compound as if it were a tourist site. What was found inside that apartment would challenge everything people thought they knew about faith, family, and the limits of religious belief. 8 years prior, in 2008, a man named Sunday Oluwatobiloba had approached the landlady to rent a house at Peaceland Estate in Akute, Ogun State, Nigeria. The property was a two-bedroom flat, simple but adequate for a single person. Sunday introduced himself as a single bricklayer looking for a place to stay. The landlady found him polite and acceptable, so she gave him the apartment. Sunday seemed like a normal, hard-working young man. He went to work regularly, minded his own business, and paid his rent on time. But he was not alone for long. Soon after moving in, Sunday brought his two sisters to live with him. Their names were Fumilayo and Elizabeth Oluwatobiloba. The three siblings lived together in the apartment, and for a while, everything seemed to be going well. They were quiet tenants who kept to themselves and caused no trouble in the compound. However, 2 years after moving into the apartment around 2010, a neighbor noticed that Sunday had stopped going to work. This was unusual for a young man who had been so dedicated to his bricklaying job. When asked why he was no longer working, Sunday gave an answer that surprised everyone. He said he had been called by God to begin winning souls for him. He was abandoning his secular work to focus entirely on ministry and evangelism. The neighbor did not disturb him or question his decision further. After all, religious callings were not uncommon in Nigeria, where faith played a central role in many people's lives. The neighbor had no way of knowing that this moment would mark the beginning of a horrific nightmare they would all wake up to in the compound 6 years later. Sunday took this acclaimed call from God very seriously. He did not just talk about ministry, he actually established a church. He named it Glory of Deliverance Ministry and set it up in Ogun State, with himself serving as the general overseer. He was now Pastor Sunday Oluwatobiloba, a man on a mission to save souls. His two sisters had also received the same divine call from God. One of the sisters, Fumilayo, had been working as a tailor in Lagos, earning a living through her craft. But when she received what she believed was God's call to ministry, she abandoned her tailoring work completely. She left Lagos and came to join her brother Sunday in his evangelism work in Ogun State. Together, the three siblings devoted themselves to their ministry. They conducted evangelism, preaching to people on the streets and in their community. They held Sunday services, trying to win souls for Christ. They pushed the ministry forward for years, dedicating their time and energy to what they believed was God's work. Money was not their priority, souls were what mattered at the time. Then, around 2010, something changed. People in the compound began noticing that one of Sunday's sisters was no longer around. Fumilayo, who had been so visible during their evangelism activities, was nowhere to be seen. She was not joining them in their preaching anymore. She was not attending the Sunday services. She had simply vanished from view. Concerned neighbors asked Sunday where Fumilayo was. He answered that she had traveled. When family members also inquired about the girl's welfare, asking where she had gone and when she would return, both Sunday and Elizabeth gave the same response. Fumilayo had traveled, she was away, and she would be back soon. Family and neighbors believed them and stopped asking questions. After all, people travel for many reasons. The two remaining siblings, Sunday and Elizabeth, carried on with their church work for 6 more years. But there was a problem. Since both of them worked very little outside the ministry and focused almost entirely on church activities, they struggled financially. Winning souls for Christ did not pay the bills. They found it increasingly difficult to pay their house rent. Sunday and Elizabeth lived in the compound for over a year without paying the landlady any rent. The landlady, whom people called Iyalati, was patient at first. She sent them notices, reminding them of the debt. She gave them time to find the money. But month after month, the story remained the same. The siblings simply could not save enough money to offset the bill. Their ministry work brought in little to no income, and they had no other source of funds. The debt continued to grow, and Iyalati's patience slowly slipped away. Finally, the landlady got fed up and made a decision. She asked the caretaker of the building to evict Sunday and his sister so that she could convert the 2-bedroom flat into units of self-contained apartments. These smaller units would be easier to rent out and would bring in more money than the current arrangement. Sunday had nowhere else to go. He had lived in that house for almost 10 years. It was the only home he and his sisters had known for years. He tried to stall, hoping for a miracle, hoping something would change that would allow him to stay. But the landlady was determined. and the caretaker had his orders. On Friday, October 14, 2016, the caretaker and several other people visited the residence to forcefully evict Sunday. They had given him enough time and enough warnings. Now, it was time for action. They forced their way into the house, ready to remove Sunday and Elizabeth from the property. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have ever prepared them for the shocking discovery they were about to make. When they stepped into Sunday's bedroom, they froze in horror. There, sitting on a sofa inside the bedroom and covered with a cloth, was a corpse. But this was not a fresh corpse. This body had decomposed over time and had been totally reduced to just skeletal remains. A human skeleton was sitting in the pastor's bedroom, in the house where he slept every night, in the same compound where neighbors lived their daily lives, completely unaware of what was happening, just few meters away from them. Shocked and terrified by this horrific discovery, the landlady and others quickly apprehended Sunday and Elizabeth. They demanded an explanation for the grim discovery they had just made. How could there be a skeleton in the bedroom? Whose body was this? How long had it been there? And what kind of madness was this? To their greatest surprise, Sunday did not flinch or show any sign of panic when confronted. He told them clearly and calmly that the corpse in his room was that of his younger sister, Funmilayo. Yes, the same sister he had been telling people for the past 6 years had traveled. It turned out that Sunday was not actually lying when he said she had traveled. The people who asked just did not understand things the way he did. In Sunday's mind, Funmilayo had indeed gone on a journey, but it was not the kind of journey anyone else would have imagined. When asked why he had lied and kept his sister's death a secret for 6 years, Sunday gave an answer that left everyone speechless. He stated confidently that Funmilayo was not dead. He explained that his sister was on a spiritual journey and had been in that state for the past 6 years. The good news, according to Sunday, was that she was due to return to the skeleton that same year it was discovered, which was 2016. This made absolutely no sense to the witnesses standing in that room, staring at a skeleton that had once been a living, breathing woman. But to Sunday, it made perfect sense. When he had told people years earlier that his sister had traveled, he was probably referring to this spiritual journey he believed she was on. The witnesses immediately called the police to the scene, since this was beyond anything they could handle on their own. Both Sunday and Elizabeth were taken into custody for further interrogation and investigation at the police station, and later when paraded before journalists, 38-year-old Sunday Oluwatobiloba gave a full account of what had happened. His confession was as disturbing as the skeleton itself, not because he admitted to murder, but because of what he believed had truly happened to his sister. Sunday insisted he did not kill his sister. He explained that God had sent Funmilayo on an errand. According to Sunday, God had told him that she would be coming back, which was why he kept her skeleton inside his apartment all those years. When she died, Sunday claimed he did not feel sad because it was the same God who created him who had sent her on this errand. He went on to explain the events leading up to Funmilayo's death. He claimed his late sister had been receiving God's call even before she left Oyo State for Lagos to work as a tailor. The calls became more frequent over time. Eventually, God directed her to leave her tailoring work completely and concentrate on evangelism. She devoted all her time to preaching. By July 2010, Funmilayo fell sick. Sunday attributed her illness to the stress of evangelism work. While she was sick, Sunday claimed Funmilayo received another call from God. This time, God said he wanted to send her on an errand. She did not know when she would return from this errand. Sunday's other sister, Elizabeth, also received the same message from God, confirming that Funmilayo would embark on a journey and that they should not be afraid because she would come back. A week after Funmilayo fell sick, her condition deteriorated significantly. She was getting worse, not better, but the family refused to take her to the hospital. According to Sunday, God had specifically told him not to take her to the hospital. God allegedly said her sickness did not require medication and that the Holy Spirit would take care of her. He went on to describe the moment of her death. Funmilayo was sleeping on a chair when God allegedly took her away. When Elizabeth came home, the two siblings carried Funmilayo inside and laid her on the bed. They prayed for her mercy journey, believing firmly that she was coming back because God had told them so. When asked if the stench from the decomposing corpse did not disturb their neighbors in the compound, Sunday claimed God preserved Funmilayo even when her body became bloated during the early stages of decomposition. Sunday and Elizabeth were never scared of her. They believed God was protecting them and that everything was according to his plan. For 6 years, Sunday slept in the same bedroom where his sister's corpse sat decomposing. For 6 years, He and Elizabeth went about their daily lives, conducting church services, preaching to people about God's love, all while keeping these terrible secrets hidden inside their home. For 6 years, they told family members and neighbors that Funmilayo had traveled, waiting for the day God would bring her back to life. Elizabeth, the surviving sister who had lived with the skeleton all those years, also gave her account. She said she was at work the day Funmilayo died. Each day, family members called asking about Funmilayo. Elizabeth and Sunday would tell them she had traveled and would soon be back. No one in the extended family knew what had really happened. No one knew that Funmilayo's skeleton was sitting in a bedroom in Akute while they waited for news of her return. The then Commissioner of Police in Ogun State, Ahmed Iliasu, condemned the strange action and explained that both suspects would be charged as soon as investigations were concluded. The skeleton was removed from the apartment and taken as evidence. As news of the case spread, many people called for Sunday and Elizabeth to undergo a mental evaluation. They believed that their dead sister would come back to life. The willingness to live with a decomposing corpse for 6 years, the refusal to seek medical help when she was sick, and the calm manner in which they explained their actions all suggested that something might be seriously wrong with their mental state. While the police continued their investigation, medical professionals and concerned citizens emphasized that it might be necessary to carry out psychiatric tests on the suspects to ascertain their state of mind. Were these people suffering from a shared delusion? Had their religious beliefs crossed the line into dangerous mental illness? Or was this a case of extreme faith taken to an unthinkable conclusion? Under Nigerian law, secretly keeping a dead body, failing to properly report the death, and disposing of human remains outside legal procedures can all lead to serious criminal charges, especially when there is evidence of concealment. If it were determined that they had contributed to Funmilayo's death by refusing to get her medical treatment, they could face even more serious charges, including manslaughter or negligent homicide. What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories.